Hello, I'm going to give a talk on nationalism, that's the title. And for speed, I'm going to read from some pre prepared notes. I usually don't do this, I usually just talk straight to the camera. Okay. It's a video response to the system is anti white. Hello, sir. Your videos make a strong advocation for the neutrality principle of nationalism, which I empathise with on some level since it is about self-determination of individuals and national society communities, such as the Swiss model, unless I am projecting an opinion onto yours, or as I would make a case for in the English models of cooperative business and institutions. However, I think in the drive for clarity of a pure theory of nationalism it is an oversimplification to say that nationalism is just between paternal neo-colonialism or imperialism or globalism or neo-feudalist totalitarianism. That is a beggar your neighbour strategy. Once nationalism has gained self-determination, what is left? No, for me, Western rationalism is at the heart of a pan-European nationalism of self-determination. There are competing memes, i.e. concepts that grow and recreate themselves and are adopted by people to remain apt to context. Most memes are therefore progressive in this way. Of course, totalitarian memes I've described as suicidal memes because they are selfish concepts that are actually going to destroy their own own group in the long run, say like Marxism or other forms of totalitarianism. I just So there are competing memes, i.e. concepts that folks subscribe to through free will and what is a balance of what is reasonable and what is empirical. If we look at the ethics of nationalism, it is to develop a social community based on the rule of law, which is a rational conception, and serves to help individuals within the national community assert their rights and duties under a constitution which is both the high law of the nation and a manual for citizens and citizenship. All of this would not have been possible without the rediscovery of Epicurean and Stoic rational philosophy, which was in the Enlightenment, which Tom Paine and Tom Jefferson developed within the tradition of the English leveller's struggle against the Norman yoke from the Civil War era, an early form of English nationalism itself, a tradition of resistance to feudalism from the English resistance to the Norman invasion that took away the federal-like structure of the English government, which with mutually supporting tiers of elections for free men to elect lanes, i.e. like the lanes were like senior knights, and then those lanes in turn elected the earls who elected the king. This was a Nordic Celtic template the Anglo-Saxons adopted from their contacts with the Romans and their laws and the Roman system of government. This template, although systematically different by using agreed cultural norms as precedents in the Witan being a council either at court level of the people in terms of courts, i.e. the principle that you're tried by your peers is a fundamental principle of common law, and later in the United States Constitution, statute law. But the Witan, of course, was the Earl and the King's Council in Anglo-Saxon England. And a similar process, of course, was used by the Celtic kingdoms as well. So This template, although systematically different by using agreed cultural norms as precedents in Wittan's, what the Swiss would call a town square referendum, develops into the court system of common law, where English yeomen challenged their new Norman robber barons via precedents in common law. It was a form of resistance and shows that nationalism is not just about self-determination, but the underpinnings of self-determination, i.e. consent via vote or precedent or denial and resistance to coercion, which you have mentioned about if we should intervene when people need help. There is also a strong vein in your argument about self-responsibility. This is the correct position for state institutions. If they are functioning, they should be doing their duties as political public servants of the nation. But many African states are not based on nations. They are either primitive feudal states based on tribal power, i.e. Congo, the DRC, arguably South Africa due to Zulu domination of the ANC, who are exterminating the Boers. At least 52,000 Boer families have died and 1 million people have left the country, be they Xhosa, English or Boers, since 1994. That the Boers, this is the country, South Africa, that the Boers created and prospered in since 1649, longer than the US has been a nation state. So the ANC are exterminating the Boers, English and Xhosa in South Africa. So African states based within non-state power groups, either proxies as in Somalia or Nigeria, of elite power groups such as the Bin Ladens, Bandars and Saudi crime families, who are sponsoring Neo-feudalism via funds from oil, construction and banking within lobbies, with lobbies in the US, just if not more deeply influential than AIPAC, which is one of the Israeli lobbies. All this means that imposing an idea of responsibility and self-determination principles from the Enlightenment onto the present African atomistic cultures or anti-cultures is a big leap of faith. And it is still, as you said, judging things from a Western viewpoint. If nationalism is just a transition to self-determination, that must apply to all nations in a state. Personally, I would want the Boers in South Africa to have their own nation state on the social market model, the social democratic model. But from the same idea of self-determination, you also get special interest groups such as multiculturalism and PC totalitarianists, political correctness totalitarianists, who don't want their own state but want extra liberties, privileges awarded by the state, vis-a-vis in Western states such as Europe and America and Australia and New Zealand, etc. And those such groups that start to intellectually colonise the associations we use with terms so that the pure meaning of a word is lost, halting democratic debate. At the same time, you start to see the hyphenated concepts of citizenship. This is something that I addressed in my Western Rationalism guide to totalitarian memes, changing the associations of terms. So these political correctness groups and multiculturalist groups are changing the concept of citizenship to hyphenated concepts of citizenship and national identity, rather than citizenship being about rights and duties under agreed laws derived from cultural norms in our culture.